We will now learn a lesson on Tess with Rabash. We will study from the study of the 10 Sefirot, part 4. And the questions and answers on the meaning of topics will continue from question number 82.
When the coupling was performed on phase 3, the degree of Chokhmah emerged. The light of Keter, the light of Yechidah, and the vessel of Yechidah departed because the coupling was performed on phase 3 and cannot extend it. This is called nekudot, the dots. And then the light of Ruach and Yechidah of Ruach have been revealed. That's what he's saying there. Why is the coupling performed on phase 3? Before that, there was Chaya of Ruach of the level of Keter. Then emerged the Yechidah of Ruach on the degree of Chokhmah, we should say. Do not get confused. And the Kli of Binah beforehand had Neshama of Neshama of the degree of Keter. Now, when the coupling on phase 3 illuminates, also the vessel has been added. She already has Chaya of Neshama at the level of Chokhmah. And the Kli of Chokhmah, where the level of Chokhmah illuminates in the degree. Also, vessels were added. Prior to that, she only had Ruach of Chaya on the degree of Keter. From the degree of Keter, from the degree place of Chokhmah, which is in the Kli, she has Neshama of Naran, Neshama Ruach Nefesh of Chokhmah. There's no Keter. Then a coupling was performed on phase 2. So there's already no Chokhmah in the degree. Only what? What is being revealed now in the degree? The degree of Binah. The coupling is performed on phase 2. Upon phase 2, she received in the end an additional Kli, which is Yechidah of Neshama. And in the Kli of Chokhmah and Keter, there's there only Neshama. In the Kli of Binah, Naran Chai now emerged at the degree of Neshama from the Nekudot, but she already has Naran Chai of Neshama. Then a coupling was performed on phase 1, including the Neshama, which also departed. There was the light of Ruach. And then also the degree of Chokhmah departed, and only the Nefesh and the Kli of Keter existed. Now, according to this order, what is the meaning that first the vessels are revealed and then the lights? What's written here? Why is the order of the vessels that the upper one emerge first, the opposite of the lights, where the lower ones emerge first? What does he mean? Let's look again at 82. Because so was the beginning of their manifestation and formation. The manifestation of the vessels came by the second looking and the departure. He says, here it speaks of the recognition of the vessel. So is there a recognition of the vessel when the light departs, expands and departs? It turns out that the first time it departed in the level of Ta'amim, what remained? Only Kli. In the beginning, the vessel of Keter appeared. Again, because so was the beginning of their manifestation and formation. The manifestation of the vessels came by the second looking and the departure. In the beginning, the vessel of Keter appeared. By the light departing from the vessel of Malchut, by the refinement from phase 4 to phase 3, it turns out what was revealed first, the Kli of Keter, we could say, the Kli of the degree of Keter, we could say, in phase 3 first. Why? Because before that, the level of Keter departed, the level of Tamim. Then, by the refinement from phase 3 to phase 2, the vessel of the level of Chokhmah manifested, where there's no light, because the degree of Chokhmah departed, and that's okay. When it was refined from phase 2 to phase 1, the vessel of Binah appeared, etc. Thus, the upper vessels, meaning the upper vessels. He means the vessels of the degree of Keter, the degree of Chokhmah, the degree of Binah, emerged first, and were revealed first. At the lower last, and in the end, the vessels were revealed on the degree of the lower ones, meaning the coarseness of Keter is revealed in the end. And upon this, only the Kli of Malchut emerged. We always learn the opposite. What's the opposite? What degree of light emerged in the end? Nothing. The coarseness of root. In the end, the coarseness of root. When I say coarseness of root, what light is there? The light of Nefesh in the Kli of Keter. Turns out, I'll speak in degrees. It turns out the whole Kli of the degree of Keter, Nefesh, emerged last. This we can understand. After all, the upper vessels, the intention is not of the private form, but of the degrees that emerge first. In the end, emerge the lower ones. It is, however, the opposite with the lights. First, the first expansion. Tamim, which there was the coupling on phase 4. Only the light of Nefesh emerged. Which light of Nefesh? However, look, the opposite with the lights. First, in the first expansion, only the light of Nefesh emerged. When it was refined into phase 3, when the coupling was made in the Chotem, phase 3, the phase of light Ruach, the light of Ruach emerged. When it was refined to phase 2, and the coupling was made in the Ozen, the light of Neshama emerged. And when it was refined into phase 1, and coupling was made in the Enaim, the light of Chaya emerged. Question 83. Why did Chokhmah ascend into the vessel of Keter? The question 83 is this. Why did Chokhmah ascend in the vessel of Keter? The Ari says, when did Chokhmah rise to the degree of Keter, to the vessel of Keter? When Malchut was refined, it was lacking phase 4, and we have no more than phase 3 of Zeranpin. Then we don't have Keter, and the light of Chokhmah is without the vessel of Keter. So he asks, it should be lacking the light of nefesh, not just keter. Look at what else is lacking here. The answer comes to this, that all the lights come in the most purest, the finest light vessels. It turns out that phase 3 can extend the degree of chokhmah. So chokhmah comes in keter, from bina to in chokhmah, and zeranpin in bina, and malchut in zeranpin. This is what he's saying. Malchut, the light of nefesh, he should have said that is lacking. What are we learning?
What are we learning here? Keter is missing. Why is keter missing? We have only phase 4 is missing, malchut. Now, it's written here, chokhmah went up to the kli of keter. Why did chokhmah rise to ascend in the vessel of keter? We learn from the upper phase here, in the level of chokhmah, in the vessel of keter, the most refined vessel, and is the vessel of keter. That's the answer, because the more refined light clothes in the more refined vessel. For this reason, when the light of chokhmah, malchut, which is the phase of, when malchut rose to the place of yesod, that she extended, she came only to the vessel of keter. And more than that, she did not draw. This is why chokhmah came to the vessel of keter, not to the vessel of chokhmah. It's simpler. Which light did she draw? Student, chokhmah. Rabash, chokhmah. So we need the light of chokhmah in the vessel of chokhmah. Why then did she come in the vessel of keter? The answer is that the light always searches to have equivalence of form. And as the light is refined and bestows, it wants the most refined vessel. This is why it comes here in the vessel of keter. Student, and from where does it have the vessel of keter? If it's already refined, if phase 4 is already refined, Rabash. He comes and says a rule. When the vessel of keter departs, there isn't even nefesh. Then it's called a vessel that has no light. As long as it shines, as long as some light shines, it's considered that there is still light in the vessel of keter. So when we say, in a way, the previous vessels, in the first vessels, were merged together, mixed together in one level, you find that malchut no longer has light, only in the vessel of zeranpin. You find that whereas the light of chokhmah in the vessel of keter, the previous one, which was before nefesh, which before had nefesh of yechidah, now has yechidah of chokhmah. So it says this. The question is, 83, why did chokhmah ascend in the vessel of keter? Why did the light of chokhmah not come in the vessel of chokhmah? Answer, since the light wants the more refined vessel. The vessel wants the more refined light, because the more refined light clothes in the more refined vessel due to the equivalence of form. This is why chokhmah is as if she found the vessel of keter. It's incorporated in the vessel of keter, which is more refined than the vessel of chokhmah. I can say something difficult here as well. If we say, but don't be confused, Bina is a parent. Malchut rose to Bina. The level vessel was added. Okay. First of all, if we want to make a coupling in the vessel of Bina, what is the vessel of Bina? Bina of direct light, or am I speaking of Malchut, which is called phase 4, receiving in order to receive? If we're speaking of Malchut, so she has some inner ones. Except he says her screen is phase 2, where she cannot use that much coarseness, but only phase 2 of coarseness. This is why Bina is called phase 2 of coarseness. It is called refined. What does refined mean? Not using that much coarseness. Therefore, does it have 10 Sefirot or not? He doesn't speak of that. What does he speak of? He adds what he had before. So he says this. It's called Bina. When the coupling that was on phase 4, the inner Sefirah of Bina, for example, he had Neshama of Neshama. When it is refined into phase 4 and phase 3, when the level of Chokhmah emerges, then in Zeranpin there was Ruach, Yechidah of Ruach. And now, Bina was added with another vessel. Now she has Chaya of Neshama. So he adds to the patzuf of Ta'amim that he had before in phase 4. Then he says, after phase 2 was refined, 3 as well, and the coupling was made on phase 2, he is Yechidah of Neshama. How? In terms of the Ta'amim, she had Ruach of Neshama from the level of Keter. She had Chaya from the level of Chokhmah. Yechidah came to her from the level of Bina. You see that he is not, besides making a coupling here, he adds from what he had before as well, from the level of Keter, from the level of Chokhmah, from her own level, the phase of Bina. This is why we get confused. There's a key that's missing here. 84. What is the light that is extended from the emanator, from above downward during the departure? The 4 levels that emerged during the refinement, when the screen came to the phases in the middle of its refinement. So, what is the question? What is the light that is extended from the emanator, from above downward, which is called direct light, during the departure of the lights? During the departure. So the answer comes, what does it mean during the departure? During the refinement. I would say something simple. What is the light of... the question is, what is this light called? Reflected light, dots, nekudot, judgment. He says, what does he interpret? What does it mean departure and not more? He asks, what is the light that is extended from above downward during the departure? What is the answer? The 4 levels that emerged during the refinement. When the screen came to the phases in the middle of its refinement. So we need to add words here. His intention is with respect to the nekudot, dots, which are called reflected light and judgment, since during the departure, these levels emerge. They're named after it. From the light that is extended during the expansion, which is called direct light and rachamim, mercy, where there are lights to the lower one, and the lower one of reflected light receives it. Then, during the departure, it is called a refinement. Then the level of nekudot emerges. Well, 85. Why are the levels that emerged during the departure called reflected light? Reflected light means that which comes from the lower one, but its directed light comes from the upper one. Answer: 85. Because these expansions that emerged in couplings during the departure are also regarded as departure. It is so because such is the conduct of the departure, that the upper light makes a coupling with it on its way. And it is not considered a real expansion. It is like a person who walks out of the house. He necessarily stops where he steps. But these are not considered rests and arrests in his march, because this is the way to walk out of the house. For this reason, they are regarded as reflected light and judgment. What is the answer? What is the question? What is the answer? The question is, why are the levels that emerged during the departure called reflected light? We need to answer simply. The lights that are revealed during the return of the lights to their emanator, to their root, are named after it reflected light. What is reflected light to their emanator? Departure. But there is expansion here. So he says, here it does not mean expansion. Here it means departure of the light, because the screen is refined. Since the screen incorporates 4 phases and begins to be refined from 4, 3, 2, 1, and everything that still has a screen, the light shines in it. This is why it's called departure. So he gives an allegory about it, like a person who is in the 4th room and wants to go out. See, he wants to come out. You find that the reason he went into the 3rd room, does he want to come to the 3rd room? Is it called a pause, or is it called departure? If he doesn't go forward, or if he comes into the 3rd room and pauses there, here he doesn't pause. There is no other way. It's impossible to come out. You find that the only reason he is refined during the departure, it's all called refinement there. That's the answer. Why is it called reflected light, although it is direct light? 86. Why is the illumination of the coupling that descends from the upper phase into the lower one, which is empty of light, called reflected light? What is the question? We learned that the light that comes anew, for example, when phase 4 was refined, and light came to phase 3. Phase 3, the level of Chokhmah, which we call reflected light, and that light descends in the vessel of Malchut. What does he want? To receive it, because he has a record from the level of Keter. We learned that a clash was made between that reflected light, which comes anew, and the Reshimo, the record. And sparks of reflected light fell into the vessel of Malchut. So he asks, why is the illumination of the coupling that descends from the upper phase, for example, from 3 into the lower one, which is empty of light, called reflected light? Student, 3 is called upper one, Rabash, or the other way around. From phase 2, it shines to phase 3. So this is called reflected light with respect to phase 3. Student, why is it regarded as the upper phase? Why is it called upper? Rabash, student, the upper level. Rabash, more refined. Student, more refined. Rabash. So what is the question? Again, I'll ask, why does phase 3 fall into phase 4? Why is it called reflected light? So I'll answer simply, since a level is called reflected light, but how do I call phase 2 that descends to phase 3? It's also called reflected light. Why? Previously too, phase 3 had no more than reflected light. There are two reasons. First, all the levels are regarded as reflected light. That's enough only for 3, 4, but from 4 to 3, what do I learn? This is called phase 3. It's called reflected light. So I want to say there comes a second reason. The second is that because anything that descends from the place of the coupling is reflected light and not direct light. Meaning, as we learn, in each degree below tabu is called reflected light. Therefore, below malchut, below the level of the coupling is called reflected light. This also pertains to from phase 3, also from 1 to 2. We need to start from item 87.
What are the 12 kinds of reflected light in Akudim? We learned that there is reflected light, which clothes the direct light. Now he comes and tells us that we should distinguish here 12 discernments. So he asks, what are these 12 phases or discernments?